Released on June 12, 2007, Era Vulgaris marked the fifth studio album from Californian desert rock legends Queens of the Stone Age. It was an all-new sound for the band, being their first foray from their staple stoner rock into an all-new blend of industrial noise rock weirdness. A welcoming change of pace, because by all merits this album totally kicks ass. The songs are fantastic, the musicianship is tight, the lyrics are cunning, and the soundscapes on this thing are just completely gnarly. Everything is so gritty and dissonant, but somehow in the most sonically pleasing way possible. Although it doesn't make for an easy first listen, Era Vulgaris will slowly creep its way into your subconscious, desperately pleading for another spin, infecting your mind with enough rust and resin to make you understand just exactly where its filthy soul is speaking from. Not just from the music, but even in the artwork and promotional material, the whole thing is just gushing with personality. It's snarky and a little bit cynical, sarcastic and a lot of bit boneheaded. But even beneath the belligerence, it has some of the most vulnerable material the band would pen pre-Clockwork. For an album so impressionably tirade, it carries a bit more depth than you'd be led to believe. It's Josh's perspective on things laid out as plainly as possible, and for its sincerity alone it's warranted at least some sort of respect. Basically, all of this glazing is to say that I sincerely do believe that this album is totally awesome. So imagine my surprise when I come to find out that people are fucking sleeping on it. Sure, the album had some hit singles, but before Villains came along, it really was the punching bag of the band's discography. It received some pretty polarizing reception when it came out, and was the breaking point for a lot of fans who had been following Josh since the Caius days. Lullabies to Paralyze for them wasn't exactly the star-studded follow-up to Songs for the Deaf that they were clamoring for. And I guess it was no helping matter when Josh returned 2 years after that to start making penis music. Pitchfork gave it a 6.2, The Guardian gave it a 2 out of 5. This guy on Rate Your Music fucking hated this shit. And whenever you look at these reviews, it's like they're all complaining about the same thing. Where's Nick? I want Nick. I miss Nick. Nick didn't get kicked out of the band for being bald like he beat his fucking girlfriend. Like, how hard is it to get that maybe they just didn't want the guy around anymore? Look, I'm sorry to start bitching about shit, but I can't help but get a little worked up looking at some of these reviews because it's like the whole point of the fucking album just completely flew past these people's heads. Like, come on, are these guys deaf or something? Oh my god. It just comes as a bit of a shock to me that this album isn't as highly praised as I feel it should be, because to me it easily ranks as the band's best album. Well, second best, third, fourth. It easily ranks to me as the band's fifth best album, which doesn't really sound all that good, I guess, but that's more of a testament to how fucking good Queens of the Stone Age is than it is to the detriment of the album. Era Vulgaris is a bit like the Tomo of the band's discography. The kind of album to impulsively grab the keys to your cabin and just chuck them for no good reason. And sure, you may be pissed off that it fucking did that, but when you and your buddies are out there rummaging through grass like weirdos, you contemplate on how ridiculous of a situation you're in, and it kinda sticks with you. That's what Era Vulgaris is to me. It's ridiculous, but extremely memorable. I'm not gonna spend the whole video beating it into your head that I think this is an underappreciated album. In fact, over the years it's been undergoing a bit of reappraisal, which is awesome. And I just want to guarantee that I've done my part in catapulting it toward the respect that it deserves. If for some reason you're watching this and haven't heard Era Vulgaris, or just didn't care for the album, then please give it a fair shake. Give it time to grow on you. I wouldn't make this video without possessing some form of passion for it. It seriously is as good as I'm making it out to be. I just want to give this masterpiece a little love, and fawn over its best moments and shed light on some cool trivia surrounding it, all the while hopefully providing a unique perspective on things that'll have you appreciate details about the album that you may not have considered or knew about before. And with all that being said, I think it's about time to buckle in our seatbelts as we take a drive through Hollywood to Turnin on the Screw. You gotta love how a song like Turnin' on the Screw introduces an album. The song builds itself atop a simple boom clap drum groove, which to my surprise was not played through a heavily processed drum machine, but instead just Joey Castillo's regular old drum kit recorded through a really shitty broken mic. This serves as a foundation for the pure sonic onslaught that is to follow, the new sound on Era Vulgaris. If the self-titled album was supposed to be robot rock, then Turnin' on the Screw is that same robot corroded into a whole different type of beast. The jilted, multi-layered industrial riffs sound like an orchestrated construction site, droning to the dissonant metalings of a single C-sharp 7 chord, with enough slides and spastic fills to make Song for the Dead blush. Commandeering the chaos once again brings us back to frontman Josh Homme, who for the first time since self-titled, provides lead vocals for every track on the album. The lyricism on Era Vulgaris is chock full of sardonicism, and Josh doesn't shy away from hitting you right over the head with that within the first couple lines of the album. You've got a question? Please don't ask it. It puts the lotion in the basket. You say bigger's better, but bigger's bigger. White boy dressed up like a... Oh, thank God. The sound of Era Vulgaris was described by Josh as dark, hard, and electrical, and it feels like he was anticipating the masses to not take this new sonic direction with open arms in the lyrics for this song, throwing shade at critics, people unwilling to put themselves out there, and his general ambivalence toward others trying to fit in with the crowd. You really just gotta love some of the one-liners you can find here. "You ain't a has-been if you never was" is such a funny phrase to me, and "the world is round, my square don't fit at all." Man, this song is so fucking cool. Something about the way Josh's vocals sound here too, the way they're sung and processed, it just sounds so sick. They've got this floaty, almost dreamlike element to it that contrasts so wonderfully to the rest of the song. Hell, when Chris Goss, one of the producers for the album, first heard the vocals, he couldn't even tell that it was Josh singing them. Getting back to Joey's drumming here for a bit, despite being a relatively simple groove, actually playing it is anything but. Not that it's complicated, but the stamina it takes to ride the tambourine's constant 16th notes can be pretty strenuous to keep up with for a song that extends over 5 minutes in length. You can see that demonstrated pretty clearly in the basement performance of the song. Actually, I want to shout out the fact that this is the only Era Vulgaris song played for their live from their basement performance, and that version just totally kicks ass as well. It's a great showcase of just how exactly they were able to create these fucked up sounds in a live setting, and I highly recommend giving it a watch. Joey said if given the chance, this would be the song he would show to aliens, and you know what? I could totally see aliens getting down to Turnin' on the Screw. It just effortlessly exudes this very particular type of sleazy swagger that's totally infectious. It's the essence of the record enveloped into a greasy handshake, and an excellent way to suck you right into the chaotic frenzy that is Era Vulgaris. "666" comes racing along right after Turnin' on the Screw, bringing forth a blistering fast pace to ramp the album up into second gear. Revolving around a stabbing dissonant C minor 7 chord as the central riff, the song was initially brought out as a first taste of what to expect from the album, being released as the first of 3 singles on May 8, 2007. The lyrics according to Josh are about the crowned fairy god prince of the gutter, releasing everyone from and shackling them from their guilt. And since I'm not even gonna bother trying to figure out what the hell he meant by that, I'm just gonna talk about the Strokes instead. Y'all know the Strokes. They're a classic band. Is This It is a classic album. Room on Fire was just even more Is This It, another classic album. Reptilia was on Guitar Hero 3, 3s and 7s was on Guitar Hero 3, Tom Morello was in Guitar Hero 3, Josh Homme was in The Strokes for a brief second. On July 2006, The Strokes released a cover of Marvin Gaye's Mercy Mercy Me, featuring Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam on vocals and Josh Homme on the drums. Not a usual spot for Josh, but he dabbles in it from time to time, particularly with the Eagles of death metal stuff. Josh would go on to get Julian Casablancas to return the favor by featuring him on 666, where he can be heard playing a Casio digital guitar and singing background vocals. Once it's pointed out that he sings the "I'm gonna take, I don't wanna choose" refrain at the end, it's really hard to unhear it. Given that 666 was released as a single, it of course was given a music video, one directed by Brett Simon. It features the band performing for a dinner party of one at a homemade set of a church castle, eventually uncovering that all the members of the band are shackled down by chains, individually being released by a ring of a bell to be cooked up as the next course served on silver platter, eventually leaving Josh as the only one left. Until that final bell has been ringed, cutting to several shots of the band performing in a giant oven while the diner goes hog wild on her meal. Josh stated that with filming music videos, you can tell during the shooting whether the video is going to turn out good or bad, and said that 666 was one of those cases where it'd turn out great, and I can't help but agree with him. Honestly, I think it's hard not to create a cool music video based on the band members becoming victims to cannibalism. But for those of you who have seen it before, perhaps you'll be more interested in learning about this alternate video made for the song instead. It was directed by Liam Lynch, a frequent collaborator with the band who's specifically notable to me as one of the legends behind Pick of Destiny. The video takes on a much more abstract style, starring a scantily dressed Wendy Ray Fowler, the ex-wife of Mark Lanigan who was also featured in the Burn the Witch video, dancing in front of a variety of surreal, deep-fried colors and imagery alongside appearances of Josh and Lynch. It's a pretty trippy video to watch, and one that arguably fits the manic tone of the song better than the official one. It was independently produced and paid out of pocket by Lynch, being shot at his own house in front of a green screen with no intention for it to be marketed commercially. However, after the video was finished, it was picked up by the label to be released in the German market, where it debuted on the band's official German website. Lynch would also go on to direct a video for I'm Designer, but I'm getting a bit ahead of myself by even mentioning this song, so why don't we go ahead and get into that first. Oh man, where do I start with this one? If you like your tune song with bizarre faux British accents, herky-jerky riffs, and lyrics about whacking off, then I have no doubt in my mind that I'm Designer is a song that would be right up your alley. I'm Designer is a song that sounds like it was written on an Etch-a-Sketch. I'm Designer is probably the most Era Vulgaris song off of Era Vulgaris. Even more than Era Vulgaris. Like, I love to imagine this fucking light bulb singing this shit. If turning on the screw in 666 weren't enough of a filter for you, then I'm Designer is definitely gonna suss out whether you're truly down for this record or not. But if you're trying to see the light, then hear me out when I say this. This song is a grower. What at one point comes off as an amalgamation of chaotic self-relating nonsense suddenly transforms into auditory crack, very much thanks to the fact that it's got one of the best damn hooks you can find on the whole album. It's like the chorus just comes in out of the fucking blue to transcend space and time. Like the song was so fucking stupid that it just accidentally became smart. It's truly a lie. I counterfeit myself. You don't own what none can buy, neither do I. It's so infectiously sarcastic, I just wanna squeeze it. What the fuck did he just say? Jaja? A commonly repeated theme that's touched upon lyrically throughout Era Vulgaris is Josh's perception of Generation X. It is more of an observation on our society rather than a finger in the face by any means, as I love today's generation. There's a lot of opportunity and it is not naive, and it wants to party and wants to be rewarded. It wants to have a good passionate job, and it laughs at things that are ridiculous like the Paris Hiltons of the world. These observations are especially abundant in the lyrics for I'm Designer. In an interview with John Kennedy from XFM, Josh clarifies that the song is essentially pondering the morality of how society operates, while still contributing to it and that sort of stuff. He also confronts the darker aspect of stardom where people become famous for things that should be shameful. It's really not that deep, but Josh plays upon it in a fun way, addressing it all with the usual smartassery that permeates the rest of Era Vulgaris. I could repeat myself by reading out some more lyrics to you, but it's all best experienced in the context of the music, so, you know, why waste your time? It used to be the plan was screwing the man. Now it's have sex with a man. After he buys you.com for sale at a low price. What the fuck is he talking about? You know, there used to be a point where I really didn't like I'm Designer. Then I loved I'm Designer. Then I loved it even more. I really just can't get enough of this song. It's easily the most sarcastic song of the bunch, and the production in it is just completely bonkers. I'm really not trying to make a joke here when I try to sell it to you as being genuinely great penis music. I don't know how this song is so good, but it just is. Anyways, getting back to how we got to this shit in the first place. Like I said in 666, Lynch also directed a music video for On Designer. The song wasn't released as a single, but it was cool enough to get one anyways. The video is pretty minimal, basically revolving around a trio of cloned Josh Homme's lip-syncing the song in front of a green screen. Pure nightmare fuel for anyone who hates the guy. Something that doesn't seem to be given enough credit about this period of Queens of the Stone Age is how you could see the seeds slowly being sown for what would eventually become Like Clockwork. That much is evident with songs like I Never Came and Long Slow Goodbye off Lullabies, and even more so for this next song on Era Vulgaris, Into the Hollow. With a working title called The First Breath You Take After You Give Up, which eventually became reused for a Them Crooked Vultures track, Into the Hollow is one of two songs on the album that showcases some of Josh's most vulnerable songwriting thus far in his discography, hilariously placed right after three of his most batshit insane songs. It's an unsuspecting juxtaposition to say the least, and one that definitely took me off guard when I first listened to the album. The last thing you'd expect after hearing those first three songs is getting smacked with one of the most hauntingly pretty songs the band has ever recorded, but it's a welcoming change of pace. It's honestly a bit hard to describe a song like Into the Hollow. Josh said it reminded him of Sly and the Family Stone, but it of course isn't without its own Era Vulgaris-y flair. It has this unique atmosphere to it that's utterly entrancing. It sounds broken, but in a way that's beautiful. The way the song builds and releases tension, the barrage of melodies that build on top of one another, and how it all comes together for this insanely powerful climax. It ends up being a very rewarding song to listen to. Not to mention that Josh's vocal performance is top fucking notch here, utilizing his falsetto to cover some pretty introspective lyricism, which he described as blowing out the candle at the end of the night, realizing why the night was over. I live behind my eyes, be sure to keep the surprise. I break what I have borrowed, that's why I always go alone into tomorrow. Don't you want to go into the hollow? I won't go alone. Aren't you gonna follow? Like, damn man. Literally one song ago this guy was talking about jacking off, and now he's hitting us with this shit. You just wouldn't expect it. I love how melodic the bass line is in this song, which was actually played by Josh himself, as well as like half the songs from this album. He almost treats it like a third guitar, allowing the three to disperse different melodies that all intertwine into this incredible amalgamation of sound. I'm a total sucker for the second verse, when the guitar starts harmonizing with the bass line. It's so fucking good, dude. Look, I have a lot of good things to say about this song. I don't even know if the words I'm saying even accurately convey how great of a song I think it is. I would call it underrated, but I know that it's just the context of where it's placed that causes that. I think people at large just haven't given the song a fair shake because they aren't expecting something like this to come from, you know, this album. But that's the beauty of Era Vulgaris. Despite its abrasiveness, there is a soft side buried deep within it, and for me it always makes for an exciting listen to hear the album unravel itself the further you get into it. It's an unsuspectingly complex album, and once you give it a chance to properly express itself to you, you'll be glad that you ever got to know it in the first place. But I'll spare you any more sappy musings of how misunderstood I think this album is. I mean, we haven't even gotten to the second song like this yet. I just got a piece of trivia about Into the Hollow to share, and then we'll be moving along with the album. Era Vulgaris, if I haven't mentioned this yet, was produced by Josh Homme and Chris Goss as the 515ers. Chris Goss, if you don't know, is a longtime collaborator with Josh, going all the way back to the Caius days by producing Blues for the Red Sun. He's the guy that helped transfer over the live energy of Caius seamlessly to tape, forging the stoner desert rock sound that we all know and love today, granting him the title as the Godfather of Desert Rock, which he's mostly impartial to. Whether or not you want to remark on him as the main progenitor of the sound, his influence and impact on the genre cannot be understated. What with the work he's done with his band Masters of Reality, his production for Caius, and, well, his contributions to pretty much everything that Josh has done since then up until Era Vulgaris. The two would eventually go on to form a duo together, which they called the 515ers. Not much is known exactly about what their plans were for this group, other than Chris explaining that it wasn't going to sound like Masters of Reality or Queens of the Stone Age, and instead be more artsy-fartsy. Despite promising plenty of live shows, they only actually performed just one. The set mostly features covers of Masters of Reality, Queens of the Stone Age, and Mark Lanegan songs, save for two. The former is a 515ers original called Eyeless 10, which opened the set, and the latter is Into the Hollow, a year and a half before it would wind up on Era Vulgaris. Aside from Make It Wit Chu and Running Joke, this would mark the only other song off of Era Vulgaris to be written before the band entered the studio, being penned shortly after the sessions for Lullabies. You see, the goal of Era Vulgaris was to create songs spontaneously and stick with them in how they came up in the moment, and the album went through a tumultuous 9-month recording process to accomplish that. With the context of the recording sessions borne in mind, you can sort of pick out certain songs that sound like they were developed within that. One of those songs, to me, is this following track off of Era Vulgaris. Misfit Love is one of those songs that you can just feel was born out of an intense jam session, and one that doesn't really try to hide it in the song proper. The core of the track was written by pretty much the whole band, and to quote Josh, "This shit is so groovin'." The song kicks things off with a distorted organ played by Chris Goss, which Josh remarked as being very fucking loud, like a tugboat in the night. It's followed by a slow burner intro that really takes its time to build itself up, giving you a minute and a half wait for the vocals to kick in. Until then though, you've got Joey laying a drum groove that makes rooms for layers upon layers of classic Era Vulgaris sounding riffs to build on top of, all with a deep growling bass line to tie it all together. It's an infectious instrumental, and it's especially telling that when they play this song live, they tend to jam this intro out sometimes for up to 4 minutes. Once you're locked in that groove, it's hard to escape it. Josh not only remarked Misfit Love as being one of his favorite Queen songs, but also the song that most identifies the sound of the record. A claim which I can't really argue against, even if I did say the same for I'm Designer earlier on. Really though, you could almost just pick any song from this album and describe it as the song that identifies the record. It's just got that unmistakably unique sound to it. Lyrically, Misfit Love likes to make it loud and proud that it thinks it's the shit. By the time the vocals kick in, you witness Josh lamenting on the delusion of being hot shit once you escape your podunk small town and make it to the big city. Clearly inspired by Josh's own move from the desert to LA. You're moving on up in the world, and all you can think of is wait till they get a load of me. One track mind, no time to waste. Sidewalks feel me strut so good. Ain't born to lose, baby. I'm born to win. I'm so sick, baby, it's a sin. What can I even add? It's just so arrogantly infectious. Of course though, with an overinflated sense of pride like this, naturally comes the dawning downfall of realizing that you were never all that you thought you were. You're just another cog in the machine. The city already has 1 million views in it, and it's just waiting to chew you up and spit you out. This is exemplified in the outro of the song, and holy shit dude, the outro of this song. As if everything leading up to this point wasn't already good enough, the song eclipses into this legendary ethereal outro sorta in the same vein as the I'm Designer chorus. It switches up from the static drone of the rest of the song to adopting a chord progression of A, G sharp, D, and F sharp minor, while Josh spits out this extremely catchy refrain of just a dead man walking through the dead of night, with some sort of variant for the second line on top of it. It was constructed by the band moving at the speed of inspiration, with each member suggesting new things to add to it. It's so fucking good, dude, and it closes things off gracefully with the simple refrain of, "'Cause I'm already gone. If you've bet on me, you've won." Alright, next up we got Battery Acid. To be honest, I'm not really the biggest fan of Battery Acid. I feel like this song is what Era Vulgaris sounds like to people who don't like Era Vulgaris. I would say more, but I don't want to piss off any Battery Acid fans by doing so. They're an odd bunch. Look, it's not that Battery Acid's a bad song. It's just a little in your face. Like, it gives me sensory overload. Its worst offense though honestly just comes down to its placement. Misfit Love was already a girthy enough song as is, and throwing battery acid right after it leaves very little room to breathe. I got this shit on vinyl and was surprised to see it had running joke sandwiched between the two, which I thought helped improve the sequencing quite a bit. It gives that nice rest stop following the first half of the album and allows battery acid to lunge you in for the second half. You know, the original pressing of this vinyl makes me really mad. I don't actually own it, so it isn't like personal, but the idea of it just really annoys me. The album split between 3 10-inch records, and each side only contains 2 songs. So you get less than 10 minutes of listening in until you gotta get back up and flip the record over. I mean, no big deal, right? Josh has mentioned before that he appreciates the ritual of flipping a record to keep the listener engaged with an album, and I totally get where he's coming from with that. But for me, there's a big issue here when you split a full-length LP up into 10-minute increments like this. I have cats. And what do cats like to do when they see you laying down for more than 5 minutes? They fucking sit on you. So you get the record going, you get back into your chair, and then 5 minutes in and bam, you're cat trapped. And now you have to get back up to flip the record over again. But you don't want to condition the cats that it's not okay to lay on you. They're so comfy. But you also want to listen to the rest of the album. So now you're stuck in limbo juggling between the choice of physical comfort or audible stimulation. You look at the turntable knowing that you gotta get it out of the groove lock or else you're gonna fuck up the stylus, but then you look at the cats and they're so cute. And then you realize what you've been hearing for the past 3 minutes and it just drives you insane. And all you wanted to do was listen to Era Vulgaris by Queens of the Stone Age on vinyl, but you can't. All because of these fucking cats. Thankfully I have the single disc repress, so none of this really matters. I'm just warning you guys to not buy this version. And if you tragically already own it, then please, send it over my way so I can safely discard it for you. Anyways, I'll talk more about the bonus tracks later, but if you're like me and had problems with battery acid burnout, then try giving the vinyl track listing a shot. All the bonus tracks are on streaming services now, so it should be pretty easy to make a playlist if you can't get your hands on the vinyl. Who knows? Maybe battery acid will end up clicking for you and you'll be an enlightened Chad while I'll be some filtered chump. Well, now I'm warming up to this song, so I feel like I should try to find some nice things to say about it. I like the song title a lot. It feels very emblematic of Era Vulgaris. Anyways, let's talk about this album cover for a bit. Just look at this shit. How can this album cover not be awesome? It's literally the same color scheme as Chad. You have mono. What? No, I don't. So, these light bulb characters. They're supposed to represent bad ideas. The green one is named Stumpy the Pirate, and then the yellow one is named Balby. I fucking love these guys. They look like idiots and they capture the essence of this record immaculately. In an interview with KTVU.com, Josh had this to say about the album art. I honestly think it's the single best album art we've ever had. I also think it's possibly the dumbest artwork I have seen for a record at the same time. I started getting into the 50s, that naive generation. They used Drippy the oil drop to sell Exxon oil, and Troy found out that Fred Flintstone used to sell cigarettes. That's as satanic as it can get. Having Fred Flintstone, a cartoon, sell cigarettes. That's from the devil himself. So we wanted to have someone sell Queens for us. Conceptually, it works great for us. Era Vulgaris sounds very serious. I think initially the reaction of the title helped push the artwork this way. It's not as serious as it seems. The artwork was designed by Morning Breath Inc., who would also collaborate with Josh for volumes 11 and 12 of the Desert Sessions. Morning Breath went on to create a whole cast of colorful characters for the album, and you can see them throughout the liner notes or the single artworks or vinyl labels. You've of course got Stumpy and Balby, but also some variants of the two where Stumpy is all drunk and Balby is all pissed. For what I know, I couldn't find any names for these other characters, but you've got this smiley guy, Matches, Girl Light Bulb, Mustache, Cool Tooth Guy, Lovey Toast with Butter, this Battery wearing a sick Queens shirt, shit, toilet paper, and of course you also can't forget the classic sausage guy. I seriously love all these characters. They fit the personality of this album so well, and you can tell it seems like Morning Breath had a lot of fun designing them. The band would go on to utilize a few of them, mainly Balby, for some neat little animated promos of the record. Like the other promotional music videos, these were made by Liam Lynch, who also voiced Balby in each of them. From what I could find, there are 4 in total. The first one is your typical promo where Balby sells you on why you should purchase the album, with one of the key selling points being that the album will suck you off. It doesn't. I tried. The next one showcases Balby doing a photo shoot for the album cover until being photobombed by Stumpy and falling over. After that, we've got one of Balby jamming out to 666 in front of a light show, although occasionally being harassed by Stumpy and Smiley until he eventually falls over.
How can I slip when there's no floor?
Great question, Balby. This last one portrays Balby deciding he wants to try and make his own album and embarking on a singing career, although once again he is being harassed by Smiley and Stumpy. Can you guess what happens next? That's right, he fucking fell again. Although this time it was because Stumpy knocked him down. Didn't know you had it in you, guy. Alright, but for real though, I'm not just gonna skip over Battery Acid. You remember that robot from Turnin on the Screw? Well, the Clinker's dead now, and this song is its corpse. It's easily the most challenging song on Era Vulgaris. Designer may be a bit off-putting at first, but it at least tries to bear moments of reprieve. Battery Acid in comparison is like the Car Crusher in Brave Little Toaster. Or more accurately, the depressed cars being crushed in Brave Little Toaster. It's bad news on 4 wheels, constantly driving straight towards the wrong notes. Troy was somehow able to construct these sounds of dying robots doing their incorrect jobs, while also being drunk and, you know, I've got to admit it sounds pretty wicked. I won't act all fake and pretend like I'm Battery Acid's biggest fan now, but I do have to give the song props for striving to sound so unapologetically abrasive. It's like the It of Era Vulgaris condensed into 4 minutes of mechanical onslaught, and it truly is unlike anything else in the band's discography. As with Turnin on the Screw and Misfit Love before it, it's another great showcase of how Joey is able to construct these insane drum grooves that look so deceptively easy. The performance of the song on the Henry Rollins show shows this off pretty well, and in general it's just a great performance of the song. Lyrically, Josh said it's about feeling like I ain't got a choice, damn it, and being resigned to just what it is. Fittingly, the song closes out to some static, which was actually Josh's dying amp that he couldn't turn off. A smooth transition towards the album's gentle love song, It Wit Chu. It Wit Chu, released as the 3rd and final single for the album, is a song that dials things down a few notches following Misfit Love and Battery Acid. It's a slow and sensual love song Josh wrote back in 2003 when he first met his then-wife Brody Dale. In his words, it's the most real and heartfelt song I've ever been able to play about screwing. You know, screwing. Like a light bulb. The song originally wound up on Volume 9 of the Desert Sessions, I See You Hearing Me. Like the studio version, this one also features Josh on lead vocals, which honestly had me fooled because he sounds completely different on the Desert Sessions version. I mean, you can tell it's him, but his voice just sounds way more raspy there, like if him and Mark Lanigan combined voices or some shit. Accompanying Josh on the choruses in this version is PJ Harvey, an artist who I'm sure requires no introduction. I mean, if you follow me for my Radiohead stuff, you should already be aware about Tom's collaboration with her on Stories from the City. If somehow you don't already know about PJ Harvey, then you've really got to get on that shit. You're missing out. But it's just pure delight hearing Polly and Josh collaborate. Honestly, probably why 9 and 10 is my favorite Desert Sessions, and why one of my favorite live performances from Josh ever is when he performed the song with PJ on Later with Jules Holland in 2003. Seriously, if you haven't seen this performance, you really gotta check it out. They play the song flawlessly and it just has this insanely captivating aura about it. Josh looks suave as fuck with his tuxedo on, and Polly just looks so damn cool. Come 4 years later, and like with many Desert Sessions tracks, Josh would go on to repurpose it for her Queens of the Stone Age album, adapting it as the 7th song for Era Vulgaris. That is, at least if you don't count its appearance on Over the Years and Through the Woods. although not much about this version differs from the Desert Sessions version aside from the more cleaned up and professional production work. There's no crazy dissonant chords or robotic sound effects like with the rest of the album. The biggest differences here is that there's less soloing in the intro and Josh takes a smoother vocal approach opposed to the raspiness of the Desert Sessions version. Some people like to write this track off as a hokey love song, but I always felt like the cheesiness of it only adds to its sincerity. We've all had at least one point in our lives where you felt all gooey for some special idiot that you caught feelings for, and It Wit Chu is just the perfect song to soundtrack that period. Not to mention musically, this song is just smooth as hell. You can never go wrong on a Queen song with piano in it. This song just rules so hard, and I love that it somehow found its way onto being smack dab in the middle of the chaotic mess that is Era Vulgaris. But what if I told you there was a third version of the song that most people don't know about? Well, I would be lying to you. But there is a pretty damn cool live version performed by CeeLo Green. Yeah, that's right, CeeLo Green. Y'all know CeeLo Green. C, forget you, Lo Green. C, it isn't wowzers, Lo Green. Despite that minor discrepancy, this is still a damn good performance. You can tell he's stumbling to find his groove a bit at first, but damn, by the time the second verse comes around, he just starts belting it and it kicks so much ass. I really recommend giving it a listen. Anyways, I lied to you. The third version is this inconspicuous acoustic version of unknown origins uploaded to the band's SoundCloud. I honestly don't have any reason to bring this up other than I wanted to point out just how fucking insane that cover art is. Oh yeah, by the way, Joe and Joe, if you two are watching this by any chance, then I just want you to know that I'm rooting for you. You ever wonder why the song just ends like that? With that random ass synthesizer? Well, I know why, but I'm not gonna talk about it. Back to back, Era Vulgaris presents you with the two biggest singles off of the album. 3s and 7s is the song that kicks things back into high gear after It Wit Chu, the straight rocker of the track listing. It's a song that wouldn't sound too out of place next to some of the poppier tracks off of Songs for the Deaf. Pure classic sounding Queens. This song really holds a special place in my heart as being the first Queens of the Stone Age song I remember hearing when I first played through it on Guitar Hero 3 as a young lad. Not the most exciting entry into a band I know, but I'm sure I can vouch for many watching this that this game was their gateway into the guys. Anyways, come a few years later and I'm a pretty well established Queens fan at this point who decided to play through it again on Guitar Hero. But as I got further into the song, I couldn't help but notice that it sounded completely different. Turns out that the version of the song featured in Guitar Hero 3 was an earlier version they provided to the developers before they could finalize it for the single release. The biggest difference here is the bridge section. It features some completely different lyrics and the vocals are sang in a different melody which includes some faint harmonies. And to be honest, it sounds fucking awesome. Like I actually prefer it to the final version. One of the lyrics that was changed for the final version is "The truth's always had three sides, mine, yours, and how it went," which I think is such a shame because it fits really well in the context of the rest of the lyrics. At least Josh would go on to reuse the line when explaining why he gave Villains its name. It's unclear exactly what the title of 3s and 7s is supposed to represent. A popular theory is that it's named after a bad hand in poker, which is backed up by the lyrics mentioning bluffing, but to my knowledge it hasn't been explicitly stated by the band. It definitely isn't supposed to represent the timing of the song since it's only played in standard. Although at the intro, if you listen closely to the snare in the left channel, you can hear it hit to the rhythm of a 3 and a 7. Which I think is a really cool little detail. Also, the last 4 albums from the band have been released in years that ended in 3s and 7s. Just figured that was worth mentioning. Being the second of 3 singles off the album, the song was of course accompanied with a music video directed by Paul Miner, which portrays a trailer for a fake movie done in the style of exploitation films from the early 60s. starring 4 girls going around and killing a bunch of people and being sexy and shit. Pretty much everything you would expect out of a Queens of the Stone Age video. Lyrically, the song seems to delve into themes about not lying, making it directly apparent with the first batch of stanzas within the song. Lie to my face, tell me it ain't nothing, that's what I wanna hear. And the chorus simply doubling down on the fact, the truth hurts so bad, wouldn't you say, so why tell it? If ignorance is bliss, then I'm in heaven now. I mean, that really says it all. Man, the little guitar solos that are scattered throughout the song are just pure crack. I can't even read out those lyrics without immediately hearing them in my head afterwards. Overall, 3s and 7s is just a rock solid tune, a great fit into the band's discography and a nice way to amp up the energy following It Wit Chu. However, with what seems to be a common theme with Era Vulgaris and Into the Hollow, the band chooses to bring things down for the next song on the album, Suture Up Your Future.
Let's do Suture, because it's emotional. The song is, it's about looking forward and not giving a fuck what's behind it. Right?
Era Vulgaris is a total cheeky fuck of an album. It likes to be snarky and mock things, but at no point does its judgment ever come from a sense of betterment. In fact, I think Era Vulgaris is having the most amount of fun when it's laughing at itself. It's like it can't even become serious without leading into it with some sort of dumb joke. And the transition from 3s and 7s to Suture Up Your Future is probably one of my favorite jokes it's made. While 3s and 7s was all about lying and putting up bluff, Suture Up Your Future, in contrast, is one of the most emotionally sincere and honest tracks to be found on this album. Josh clarified in his interview on XFM that the meaning of this song specifically harkened to his feelings following the release of Songs for the Deaf, refusing to rehash it again by releasing Lullabies, and shaking off the lead jacket of expectations and personal turmoils within the band. There's no good on dwelling upon what-ifs and desiring the unattainable. Either shit happens or it doesn't, and anything in between is really just a complicated form of the latter. Truths can be so hard to accept that it's enough to make people go crazy. But fact of the matter is that the pain and delusion is far more severe than the temporal agony of confronting reality, because between those two options, one of them at least provides a path to healing and moving forward. Try to fake it, I just can't take it. I don't care if it hurts, just so long as it's real. Like, damn, man. Literally 5 songs ago, this guy was talking about jacking off, and now he's hitting us with this shit. At this point, you should just come to expect it. Of course, good lyrics leave room for a variety of interpretations, and one that I'm particularly fond of is the idea that Suture Up Your Future is a sort of direct continuation of one of the tracks from Songs for the Deaf, The Sky Is Fallen. In that song, Josh appears to come to the realization that constantly dwelling on everything that's wrong with the world can only blind you with a burning hatred that fails to acknowledge the things that make life worth living, that you should rise above succumbing to cynicism and strive to maintain a more optimistic outlook toward life. Suture Up Your Future then feels like the next step toward embracing that newfound worldview, by putting all of your irrational paranoias into the past and keeping focus on a better life going forward. Tried explaining, done explaining. Got caught in the plaid of all this talking at once. When Josh mentions getting caught in the plaid, it's obvious to interpret this as a callback to Tangled Up in Plaid from the album prior. In that track, Josh entails a deeply self-destructive person clinging onto an estranged relationship that causes nothing but trouble. And while some interpretations I've read like to allude this to Nick's departure from Queens of the Stone Age, the callback in Suture to me rules in the possibility that Tangled Up in Plaid is a case of Josh reflecting on himself, possibly even with his thoughts on the direction of the band, with Suture of course being the embrace of moving past it all. The fact of the matter is that this song is definitely about confronting hardships and moving forward, and musically the instrumental here coats the message with the warmest and coziest blanket imaginable. After a brief guitar intro, the song greets you with this incredibly smooth walking bass line that drives just enough energy for Joey to lay down a bouncy swing groove. And while this appears to set up for a song that sounds like it would be pure fun, it ends up being the foundation for an extremely captivating contrast in rhythm and atmosphere for a song. Because over top the whimsical swing groove are airy electronic piano notes and distorted guitar bends that embellish the mix with a haunting ambiance. It creates a bittersweet juxtaposition and a perfect backdrop for Josh to lay bare his introspective musings. It's an extremely unique song to me, and easily one of my favorite deep cuts from the band. It's melancholic but also fun. It confronts hardships while setting sight on a way out of them, like a warm helping hand that wants you to know that everything's gonna be okay. And that's just a refreshing message to get out of a song. The cherry on top, though, is how the song chooses to end things off, in a way that feels like the polar opposite from previous songs like Misfit Love and On Designer. While those songs were for most of its runtime challengingly noisy like the bulk of Era Vulgaris, they lapsed into segments of being softer and more melodic as though they were trying to indicate that there was more to them than the chaotic mess it lets on. In contrast, Suture Up Your Future is for the bulk of it a pretty easygoing song that drastically shifts gears towards the end with a near minute of a repetitive stabbing guitar riff, accommodated by frantic guitar riffage and the rest of the instruments spazzing out atop it. I like to interpret this outro as though it's soundtracking the narrator destroying the demons of its past, conquering them, then taking solace in the clean guitar strums which close the track, leading into River in the Road. River in the Road carries on the melancholy from Suture Up Your Future while amping up the energy, and it's an extremely fitting second to last song for an album. It exudes that feeling that things are winding down with its droning siren wail, galloping rhythm, and sporadic guitar riffage. A rock and roll samba preparing you for one last hurrah. Accompanied by Josh Homme on vocals here is Mark Lanigan, his only feature on the album and the first Queen's album since self-titled to not have a designated track for him to sing the lead on. Did you know he was here? Because I sure as hell didn't. He only pops up for the ah 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 sections in the choruses, and he's buried so deep within the mix that he's nigh indistinguishable. Josh has commented on River in the Road before, citing it as a song he's been particularly attached to due to the scary and tragic vibe it has, remarking specifically on the uncovered QOTSA version of it done by River in the Road, along with Suture Up Your Future and Run Pig Run, all resemble a three-song suite to cap the album off to me. They all feel connected in a way, with how Suture seamlessly fades into River, and especially lyrically between River and Pig, with the repeating motif of Run Darling Run in the song. There's a really interesting interpretation of the two songs that I found on the Queens of the Stone Age subreddit by the user Proud Homosexual, and I'd like to take a moment to indulge in it for a bit. I think that River in the Road and Run Pig Run are two parts of the same story, or rather two perspectives. River in the Road has a very tragic, deathly sound to it, and the lyrics, including Run Darling Run, appear to be about self-sacrifice to ensure that a loved one can escape from something. Run Pig Run seems to be from the viewpoint of whatever it is that is chasing them. It's disgustingly psychotic and deranged. To add on to this, I'd like to go even further and try to tie it in with Suture, that the thing chasing them could represent the demons Josh was trying to escape on that song, with the person escaping from the demons being Josh, and the person sacrificing them also being Josh, and alright, I honestly didn't think this through, but I'm sure there's a way you can twist it to make more sense. Get sweet revenge with my blood, a river in the road. These are the final set of lyrics from River in the Road that lead us toward the perspective of the established threat, and the song to bring the album to a close, Run Pig Run. Era Vulgaris is an album which is many things, but one word I've been very reserved with using to describe it is heavy. It's the second album of theirs to predominantly stick to standard tuning, and none of the songs particularly strive to recreate that dark, murky desert rock sound that Josh had pioneered since the Caius days. 666 may have came close, but it pales in comparison to the behemoth of an outro that is Run Pig Run. While 3s and 7s I claim could have fit alongside some of the more popular tracks off of Songs for the Deaf, Run Pig Run has its roots planted firmly within the First It Giveth and Songs for the Deafs of the album, all with the villainous intent of a track like Mosquito Song. It's the only song where the subject matter derives from genuine anger, encapsulating the moment where you feel like it's not up to somebody else what happens. You don't have a choice. As soon as the song kicks off, it's instantly made known that a threat is looming. 3 hauntingly plucked guitar notes cascade into a dissonant swell of audible terror through striking the strings of the headstock. It's Queens of the Stone Age writing the soundtrack to a horror film. The beast has caught notice of you, and a blisteringly fast onslaught of power chords rush toward you only to disappear for a brief second and wind up even closer. Going off of Homosexual's theory from earlier, Run Pig Run establishes the viewpoint of the threat from River in the Road, lyrically taunting its victim through a metaphor of hide and seek, digging at them by comparing them to sheep and boasting its own predatory intentions. These taunts and animal comparisons carry on into the chorus, with the simple refrain of Run Pig Run, here I come. By this point the guitars start going haywire. Back are the dissonant swells of the intro and a lead guitar frantically noodling beneath Josh Homme laying out a psychotically delirious woo-hoo-hoo hook. The song is ruthless, sinister, and terrifying, but the only thing this beast is getting from you is its final blow. Tensions dissipate in the form of a jilted riff interpolated from an old Macedonian Romani brass song. The beast is confused now, realizing that you aren't the easy target it was anticipating, but you'd be a fool to think it's going down without a fight. Back are the chasing guitars and a squealing riff that sounds like it was processed through a Digitech whammy, making way for the second verse of the song. Lyrically, the threat is doubling down on its desire to desecrate you. It brings back the taunts, but it's becoming desperate. It tries to dig into you that there's no safe place to hide, but you can see through its facade. The interpolation arrives once again, but in random intervals the guitar in the left channel outright refuses to play. You can tell the beast is getting weaker. This is the final confrontation. Following that is not the return of the sound of the beast chasing you, but instead the soundtrack to the ultimate battle between you and the threat. The song bounces between 2 sustained power chords conducting the apex of tension, while a barrage of dissonance bubbles through the mix beneath a sickly, Phrygian guitar solo. Quietly, you can hear the jilted riff peeking through as the indicator to your stake in the fight. The beast is loud and noisy and wants you to think that it isn't phased, but it's slowly giving in to its demise. Eventually, this breaks into the outro of the song, the threat's last-ditch effort to try and take hold of not just the battle, but life itself, through the brief return of the main riff. However, it's stagnated, and gives out as soon as it comes in, morphing into the whimper of a single bending guitar note as the beast fades out into nothingness, taking the album along with it. Like with many albums, Era Vulgaris has its fair share of recorded tracks that didn't end up making the final cut. These being Running Joke, the title track, funnily enough, and The Fun Machine Took a Shit and Died. There's like a million different pressings of the album between different countries that have all sorts of combinations of these tracks, but my recommendation is to fish out the Japanese version if you want them all, or just stream them on Spotify. They're on there now. Apparently there were talks before about releasing a 10-track EP containing all the B-sides from the album. Since there's really only 3 proper B-sides, it's entirely speculative on what the rest of that EP would entail. It's pretty likely that it would include the 4 cover songs, but that would still leave 3 more tracks. Again, they could pad the rest with the remixes, but when I first heard about this, I wondered if there were any more songs from the Era Vulgaris sessions that we haven't had a chance to hear yet. Allegedly, some songs from these sessions have been repurposed for later Queen's records, so I wonder if potentially there were even more B-sides that would have seen the light on this EP, but again, this is all speculation. Anyways, going off on how they're sequenced on the Japanese version, the first of these songs we'll be taking a look at here is Running Joke. The song had its start as being written for the Lullabies to Paralyze sessions. You can see it listed amongst the other tracks for that album on a whiteboard in the studio session footage. For unknown reasons, the song didn't end up making the cut there, and only barely made its way onto Era Vulgaris. I say barely since I discussed earlier how on the vinyl versions it's placed at the end of side A, or side C on the Maniac version. between Misfit Love and Battery Acid, so it's kinda on the album, or at the very least the only bonus song that has been officially sequenced amidst the other tracks. I'll say it again too that I'm very fond of its placement there, and I think it's how the album should have flowed between all versions and not just the vinyl. Musically, the song revolves around a simple rise and fall electric piano melody in triple meter. Think something like House of the Rising Sun. Josh croons over the melody as it slowly builds up to break out the rest of the instruments after the first chorus, which is when the song fully kicks in. At this point onwards, the song just sounds cool as fuck. I love how Josh changes up his vocal melody in the second verse, it just sounds awesome. Unfortunately, however, the song ends just about as soon as it begins. It goes into a second chorus that repeats itself as it becomes shrouded in heavy reverb and slowly fades out. Given the brevity of this song, it's been speculated by fans that it's unfinished. Either Josh didn't know how to add on to it, or he had plans to include it on a much more ambitious song that didn't end up coming to fruition. Whatever the case, it's interesting to note that this song's ending fades seamlessly into the horn outro of Long Slow Goodbye from Lullabies. Martin Stoyanov on YouTube has an excellent edit showcasing this if you want to take a listen for yourself. Just another case of that album connection thing the Queens have got going on. Lyric-wise, the song delves into themes of alienation and trying to make something of yourself as an outsider who's looked down on by the common folk. There's a lot of different metaphors and stuff for you to try and interpret it in your own way, so I'm not going to go crazy and trying to overanalyze it. Although I am a big fan of the interpretation you can find on the song's Genius page, which simply states, sex. Hey, so my original recording of this somehow got completely fucked, so now it's gonna sound all different. Anyways, next up on the trifecta of Era Vulgaris bonus tracks is the title track. Now, it isn't exactly unheard of for a title track not to wind up on its respective album. I mean, Led Zeppelin's done it, Primal Scream's done it, Guided by Voices have done it like 4 fucking times. It happens, you know. The song, like with the album, was named after the Latin title for Common Era. Josh picked the title because it sounds like the Vulgar Era, which I like, because that sounds like something that I would like to be part of. I mean, I think we're in it and I'm stoked. Very cool, Josh. As for why the song didn't wind up on the album, there's a couple of different theories. One is that it was done as a friendly fuck you to Trent Reznor. Another is that it was done as a much less friendlier fuck you to the record label. And another is that Josh just thought it would be funny. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if all of these were true. That there were too many omens begging the song to not be on the album. Whatever the case, I still find it a bummer that the song had to be relegated to a deeper cut because it seriously rips. The main riff is a total earworm. If I hear it once, then it's gonna be playing in my head for the next couple of hours, and I'm totally okay with it being there. Like Turnin on the Screw, it really nails that sleazy but cool vibe. It's easily the most entrancing song of the batch, very krautrocky in that regard. Like Misfit Love before, the song knows its groove and locks into it hard, chugging along at the drone of a single chord, occasionally giving into moments where it just completely spazzes out for a bit before carrying on like nothing ever happened, leading us into the chorus, where the song then changes key and introduces us to a chord progression that... Wait a second. So you remember that little synthesizer that plays at the end of It Wit Chu? Well, it turns out that the melody it's playing is the chord progression of the title track. So I guess in a way it did technically end up on the album in some form or another, but not without leading out a whole lot of good-ass song with it. You know how I brought up Trent Reznor earlier? Well, here he is, harmonizing with Josh throughout the Bridge in the Right channel. I honestly didn't know it was him when I first listened to the song, but once it's pointed out it becomes hard not to notice. I love how the rhythm switches up at this point too, skipping a beat to make it a 7. It's not the most seamless sounding 7, mind you, but the abrupt jankiness of it is what makes it work. I sort of glossed over the reasoning for the song's exclusion earlier, so I'm gonna get into the details of it while we're still talking about Trent. So, to give some quick context first, Nine Inch Nails released their 5th studio album Year Zero a few months before Era Vulgaris came out. Josh recorded vocals for a song that didn't end up making the cut, and shortly after the album released, Trent butted heads with the suit at Interscope Records over them intentionally gouging the price of the album in overseas countries, particularly Australia, to exploit dedicated fans, and he ended up leaving the label as a result. So the theory goes that Queens of the Stone Age, who were also signed to Interscope at the time, played the Era Vulgaris title track to them, and the suits there were having a hoot and a holler about how they were going to put out a release containing Trent in spite of his departure, even taunting the idea of marketing the album as featuring Trent Reznor. And since Josh knew that was gay and that he had to get back at Trent for snubbing his feature on Year Zero, he thought it would be funny to just exclude the song from the album altogether and to release it as a promotional single instead. So on April 7th, 2007, the band partnered with thefade.net, an old QOTSA fan site, to host an internet contest which could win you a special package from the band. Incidentally, this turned out to not be a competitive contest like I had in mind, but more along the lines of a glorified raffle. To enter, you would submit a form on thefade.net's homepage, which inquired your name, phone number, IRL address, and email, all that good stuff. This was obviously met with a lot of speculation before it was confirmed to be legit, and that it was Josh's idea to do it, avoiding hosting it on the band's official website as a means to specifically reach out to the real ones. 4 days later, the contest was closed after over 900 entries, and 2 days after that, on April 13th, the prizes were promptly received by 50 randomly selected winners, with the contents containing a single titled, "You Know What You Did." It was packaged as a mock instructional disco DVD called Joshua's Famous Step-by-Step Party Dances, showcasing Welby and Stumpy standing in front of a crowd of people while advertising Era Vulgaris as one of the featured songs to learn dances to. It crushes me to break it to you that the disc inside was not an actual dance tutorial DVD, but instead just a CD containing some stupid song. Alongside it came a handwritten note which encouraged the receiver to share the song online to websites of places it does not belong. So a brief recap real quick. Interscope fucks over Trent by trying to rip off his fans in countries outside the US, so he decides to leave the label. The label finds out that through QOTSA they'll be releasing a song containing Trent and starts to gloat about it. Josh is all like nah and decides to pull it from the album to stand up for his friend. Then the song is independently released as a promotional single given only to winners of an internet contest, with the contents inside including a handwritten note encouraging them to share the song online. Then, to pile on top of all of this, when Nine Inch Nails performed in Australia in September 2007, Trent had a very vocal outburst encouraging fans to steal music instead of purchasing it legally, specifically stating,
Steal some more and give it to all your friends and keep on stealing.
So what am I getting at here? Well, it's the simple fact that piracy is cool, so eat shit, Lars. But for realsies, it's an interesting story of how Josh stood up for a friend in the midst of a label deliberately trying to fuck him over, and I find that extremely respectable. I should come clean and admit though that I'm really just going off hearsay from people on Reddit for most of this besides the contest stuff. Not that I don't think it's true, but I haven't been able to track down any official statements from either of the guys. I feel like it adds up though, especially given that both Nine Inch Nails and Queens of the Stone Age would transition to independent labels for their following projects. But there's also the chance that Josh admitted it because he didn't think it would fit on the album. Who knows? Anyways, after Josh and Trent finish singing the bridge, the song goes into total freak-out mode, with the instruments wailing all over the place and the drums frantically pounding out at breakneck speed while Trent shouts and Josh does his classic ha's. A brief guitar solo leads us back into the final chorus that then leads us into the outro, featuring a menacing guitar riff garnished with clicking harmonics and a bending note resembling a siren, strutting along to pulsating drum toms that eventually lead the song to a close by an intense snare roll. A song that's nothing short of exciting. One of my favorite parts in those last few minutes is easily when Josh switches up the lyrics in the final chorus to the poignant poetry of da 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 do da 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 do da 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 do da da da. An astounding lyric to say the least. One that reminds me for the entirety of this segment I've forgotten to talk about the lyrics at all. Whoops. As stated before, Era Vulgaris is inspired by Josh's drives through Hollywood, and its self-titled track is emblematic of the sort of depravity that comes with trying to thrive in a place like that, in an era which is nothing short of vulgar. I play a game till I'm dead, or on a magazine. I wanna look like I'm dead, dancing on a string. With the game obviously resembling showbiz, the narrator remarks how they're in it for the long haul, apathetically dancing around like marionettes until they wind up dead or plastered on gossip magazines over unrecoverable controversy. They're greedy and will take as they please, make messes of things and smear blood everywhere, but wouldn't dare to inflict any of that upon themselves. The usage of creatures here in the bridge reminds me of the animalistic metaphors that Josh would make a central point on If I Had a Tail from the next album. In fact, both songs seem to share very common themes. I love the detail how after Josh and Trent sing repetition they go on to repeat over it twice. It reminds me of that stupid gag in On Designer where Josh sings "Never again will I repeat myself twice." It's a stupid little thing, but it gets a chuckle out of me. The rest of the song just repeats the chorus and ends there. So it's essentially a warning to not give in to a self-servient lifestyle. That fame and stardom isn't what it's all cracked out to be if it leaves you with nothing in the end. A pretty basic warning call that we should all have learned by now. But there's always gonna be some fool who will keep making the same mistakes. Anyways, the last of the bonus songs is called The Fun Machine Took a Shit and Died. It's a song that was supposed to wind up on Lullabies to Paralyze, but they lost the tapes and ended up having to re-record it for the next album. Something I would consider to be divine intervention, because there's no way you can have a song with this title and not have it associated with Era Vulgaris. It's just too perfect. For the rough demo they still had of the song, they put it out as a 7-inch single in 2005, and gave it away to people who bought tickets for a show in London that ended up getting cancelled. As you'd expect from a demo, the song sounds way rougher, but the biggest difference is its length, being over a minute shorter than the re-recorded version as they hadn't yet written the outro of the song. Alongside the song, they had a commentary track included for the B-side of the single, which featured an interview of the band in the left channel, and then the band commentating over their interview in the right channel. It's like this insane version of The Gift where instead of music being played in the right channel, it's just even more talking. It's about as chaotic as you would expect. On my alt channel I uploaded a video that isolated each of the channels to make it more distinguishable, and for the most part it does help a lot. But then you listen to the interview proper and the guys are just talking about fucking tanning. It's insane. In the liner notes of Lullabies to Paralyze, the band was convinced that somebody stole the tapes for the song, but Josh would later clarify the scenario, stating that the tapes got lost. Actually, they were just at another studio, but we falsely accused everyone in the world of theft. Come time for Era Vulgaris and the guys would re-record the song. Since we're talking about it here, it obviously didn't end up on the album, but was given away as a single for a pre-order bonus, and was also included on the German, Brazilian, and Japanese editions of the album as a bonus track. You know what? I'm not even gonna try to go through the whole rigmarole of describing this song to you because it's something that you really gotta listen to for yourself, and then listen to again like 5 more times after to make sure that you catch everything. It's like the final boss of Queens of the Stone Age songs. It's fucking incredible. In the middle of the song, the guys lose themselves within a gnarly jam session, and in the background you can pick up on a spoken word sample of what sounds like some sort of evangelical broadcast. There's been some discussion on what exactly is being said here from the Sessions in the Desert YouTube channel and Records forums, but I've noticed that since the song got added to Spotify, there's been another transcription of the segment provided by Music's Match, and I think for the most part that this one seems pretty accurate. Not entirely accurate, mind you, but just for the most part. Speaking of lyrics, the ones in this song are essentially about talking mean shit to some fuckwad, and it's some really fun stuff. How you like your position? You ain't Robert Mitchum. You're 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. You know, speaking of shit, what the hell does this title even mean anyways? The Fun Machine took a shit and died. Well, it turns out that this titular fun machine in question was a dinky little keyboard the guys had that would sporadically break down on them, I like to assume that the little ditty that plays at the start of the song was recorded with said keyboard. There's nothing to back that up for what I know, but it seems fitting, so I just wanted to mention it. The Fun Machine makes a few brief cameos in one of the villains' promos and in behind the scenes footage from Them Crooked Vultures. It appears to be a Baldwin Fun Machine 121 from the early 70s, although the specific model has been hard to pinpoint for me. Notable differences between the one the guys have and others out there is the omission of the Baldwin logo in the center of the organ, as well as it having a knob and input jack on the left side. Their Fun Machine also appears to only have two knobs toward the center, but I believe that's just because one got broken off. I'm not typically a major gearhead like this, but it's the fucking Fun Machine. I gotta honor its legacy somehow. Besides those 3 bonus tracks, the band also recorded a few covers that you can find throughout their single releases. First up, we got Christian Brothers by Elliott Smith. This one's probably my favorite of the bunch since it's my favorite Elliott Smith song, and hearing it performed by Josh and the crew is a real treat. They do an excellent job. Josh captures the intimacy of the original really well, singing gently with his falsetto. Of course, with the Queens though, they embellish it with their own interesting guitar work and even throw a mellotron in there, or some other fake strings keyboard instrument. One thing that always bugged me though, and this is in no way me bitching about the cover, but just one little thing that always bugged me is that they skipped the ghost note in the main riff of the song. They let the first note ring out, and it always trips my brain up because I've listened to the Elliott Smith version a million times, and I'm always expecting that note to play, but it never does. But, you know, all in all, it's a great cover. Besides the Elliott Smith one, we've got Needle in the Camel's Eye by Brian Eno, Going Out West by Tom Waits, and White Wedding by Billy Joel. To be honest, I only really wanted to talk about the Elliott Smith one. Not that these other ones are bad, but they don't try to sound all too different from the originals, so there isn't much to say about them. Worth checking out at least, if you like the originals and want to hear them through a QOTSA filter. Besides that, there's also a few remix tracks included in various singles as B-sides as well. Remixes aren't particularly my thing, so I don't have anything to add beside acknowledging them, but hey, they're out there if you want to check them out. And with that, I'm just about all out of things to say about Era Vulgaris. Through this video, I was trying my best to cover as many things about this album as I possibly could while keeping things as engaging as possible, and I seriously hope that it shows in the final product. There's something cathartic to me about having the opportunity to air out all of my passion for Era Vulgaris in this video. Even though it isn't my favorite Queens of the Stone Age album, it's still an album that I possess so much love for, and I hope that love I've shown for it here has inspired someone else to give it another shot or even listen to it for the first time. I still remember the day when Era Vulgaris first clicked for me. I was utterly obsessed with it. I just couldn't put it down. It's not that I ever hated the album before then, but I was certainly putting it off in favor of other Queens albums. I always just thought of it as the jokey Queens album, and didn't really engage with it much further than that. But it's so much more than that, and it really needs time to unravel itself on you. It's still that jokey Queens album, but that's absolutely what's awesome about it. In a way, Josh being able to put out an album like that, and give a big middle finger to everyone who expected him to release songs for the deaf again, is exactly what he needed to pave the way toward Like Clockwork, the album that shot Queens of the Stone Age straight back into the limelight, and gave the band a raving critical resurgence. It's easy to repeat your most popular work, and drift off its success until people get sick of you, but that's never what Queens was about. They were always willing to move forward even if it would piss people off. Josh always knew what was the right move for the band, even if no one else did, and it's because of his judgment that we got one of the greatest rock bands of all time.